Hey guys, how's everything going? This is JSer. Let's continue our journey of a relay. And in this video, let's see something different than the reload query. We've already actually added a reload button here, right? When we click it, you can see that this loading, and after the request is done, and we are showing re-rendering the UI. And let's see what the result is. I've opened another tab for it. Let's select the new one. Let's do one, and then okay, because we've already added the subscription, it will be reflected in real time. Let's modify the second one to 2. Obviously, there is no subscription on the to-do modification, so it will not be reflected here. And we click reload. Of course, the whole data will be renewed, so we render this new data. You might wondering that the loading is not very cool, right? Actually, we have a result for that now in the new React 18. We can use the start transition. So when we click this reload, we could just start transition, and anytime there will be, if the UI is suspended, actually the UI will not be re-rendered, so the old data is reused. But now, before we use that, we could actually use another method in the relay. It's called a fetchQuery. So let's give it a try. So here, the load query actually will load a query as a new resource, right? So if we actually have this fetch query, let's see what we can do with it. Fetch query, as the name says, it will fetch the query but not loaded it. You can think that it's like a raw API for fetch the data, and it will not trigger the resources in a new state. I mean, if you see that a load query here, use query loader, it will hold the query, and you load it, it will create a new ref for this. But for fetch query, it will actually only fetch the data through the network and set it to the relay store without modifying this ref. So it will not actually modify the state. But remember, when we store the data to the relay store, if there's an ID attached to a response, it will actually automatically update. The UI will be updated. Let's see in a real example here. We import the fetch query, but something actually we've already defined a function here to the relay store. So we rename it to solve the naming conflict. Okay. And also we add a new button. Let's call it refetch. And let's add some space here. This is not good, okay? We should not use this, but it's just for demo purpose. So on click, we just call the refetch. So in this refetch function, here, in this refetch function, we actually will call the fetch query. Fetch query, you can see that there are some parameters. The environment is the environment. The query is actually app query. The variables, let's use the same variables here. And then actually, this fetch query returns an observable. So actually, we have subscribe function. For observable, there will be document you can refer on the internet, and actually it has some like a next and complete and on error, right? I don't actually remember this clearly, but one of them is complete. Let's see, that's complete. So this is it. Let's try it. Okay, when we click refetch, you can see that the loading state will not be rendered. The API will be queried again, and you can see that this is the new data. Let's add something here. Okay, before we do, we need to stop. Okay, stop the. Okay, we stop the subscription. It's actually in the to-dos here. Okay, good. Now let's add one, like 3. There's no subscription, it will not be added. Let's refetch it. But it is actually added. Why? Because let's see if the data in our response. Okay, we actually get the data, and ID is in it. So this ID implies that the relay should update the whole data, which has the same ID, which is a root actually. So to those connections, new edges will be adjusted, added them all. Okay, this might not be a good example. Let's see, update it to 4. Again, if we refetch, the new data will be updated 4. This is my better, right? But what we really want to do is to show that it will not actually update the data if not the same ID is attached. In the fetch, let's just change it to 2, right? Okay. Now, okay, now let's add one, like 5. Change the second one to 6. Okay, now refetch it. You can see that only 6 is updated because let's see the data. The root data is actually JSer 2. So the connections will not be updated, even though that 5 is added here. The 5 will not, the connections edges will not be updated. But for the node 2 to 3, it actually will be updated with 6. It has ID in it, node. So the 6 will be added, it will be updated, but new connections will not be inserted. So that's what it means that it will not update the data unless it has the same ID. Okay, so we fetch it. We actually can handle the data. So when it's ready, we could actually load the data again and apply it to the UI. Okay, so note it. It will be in the node store. So we load the query and then give it the same ID, JSer 2. It actually be cached. So when we load it again, we can just use the store only. We will come back to this fetch policy in the following videos. But now let's just grasp it in a very general way. So fetchQuery will fetch it. It will update data if we have some IDs. But now the JSer 2 is not in the store, nothing to update, and it will hold the cache only. So after it is complete, we load this query, not from the network, but from the store because it's already cached. So, and then it will actually not only here will be title will be updated, but also the new to-dos and the updated ones. Let's take a look. 7, add it, and then update the next one to 8. Now let's refetch it. When it is ready, JSer 2 is updated, 7 is updated, 8 is updated. So that's it. So that's what the fetch query does. You can think of it as like because for load query here, use query loader. It actually holds the state of the query, but for fetch, it's just like a API util function. You fetch the API, really will give you the response, and you can do whatever you want, right? You can do the query again to update the data in this state, and then it will trigger the whole re-render of this app component. And yeah, that's it. So But I mean, if this is just the of the purpose to remove the loading state, I just suggest you use the start transitions in the new React 18. It was much more easier to understand, and yeah, refetch might not be that necessary until you want to do something so so freely, and that you want to customize the behaviors just for fetching the data. Yeah, you might be just to fetch the query and to get data and log in and do something else totally irrelevant to the React rendering. Yeah, that's why when you need this for fetch query. If they do this for rendering, yeah, load queries might be the best approach. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I hope it helps. See you next time. Bye bye.